Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Lakshmi madam. Lakshmi madam.
Good morning.
Morning. Okay. Akshay. Akshay is present. Akshay, yes.
Yes, sir.
So you switch on your video mode. So, good morning, all participants. A warm welcome from Anand Babu, coordinator of this FTP from Malnad College of Engineering, Hassan, Karnataka. Okay. So, in the outset, so before starting our workshop, I would like to bless. I would like to have the blessing from the God Ganesha. So this time, Akshay will go to sing the song for us. Okay. Akshay.
मोदल वंदीपे निनगे गणनाथ मोदल वंदीपे निनगे गणनाथ बंद विघ्न कಳೆಯೋ गणनाथ बंद विघ्न कಳೆಯೋ गणनाथ मोदल वंदीपे निनगे गणनाथ मोदल वंदीपे निनगे ಗಣನಾಥ ಆದಿಯಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಪಾದ ಪೂಜಿಸಿದ ಧರ್ಮರಾಯ ಆದಿಯಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಪಾದ ಪೂಜಿಸಿದ ಧರ್ಮರಾಯ ಸಾಧಿಸಿದ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಗಣನಾಥ ಸಾಧಿಸಿದ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಗಣನಾಥ ಮೋದಲ್ ವಂದೀಪೆ ನಿನಗೆ ಗಣನಾಥ ಮೋದಲ್ ವಂದೀಪೆ ನಿನಗೆ ಗಣನಾಥ ಹಿಂದೆ ರಾವಣನು ಮದದಿಂದ ನಿನ್ನ ಪೂಜಿಸದೆ ಹಿಂದೆ ರಾವಣನು ಮದದಿಂದ ನಿನ್ನ ಪೂಜಿಸದೆ ಸಂದರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಗಣನಾಥ ಮೋದಲ್ ವಂದೀಪೆ ನಿನಗೆ ಗಣನಾಥ ಮೋದಲ್ ವಂದೀಪೆ ನಿನಗೆ ಗಣನಾಥ ಮಂಗಳ ಮುರುತಿ ಗುರುರಂಗ ವಿಠಲನ ಪಾದ ಮಂಗಳ ಮುರುತಿ ವಿಠಲನ ಪಾದ ಹಿಂಗದೆ ಬಜಿಪೆ ಗಣನಾಥ ಹಿಂಗದೆ ಬಜಿಪೆ ಗಣನಾಥ ಮೋದಲ್ ವಂದೀಪೆ ನಿನಗೆ ಗಣನಾಥ ಮೋದಲ್ ವಂದೀಪೆ ನಿನಗೆ ಗಣನಾಥ ಮೋದಲ್ ವಂದೀಪೆ ನಿನಗೆ ಗಣನಾಥ.
Thank you, Akshay, for this melodious invocation song. Okay. So, from the outset, I would like to welcome AICT Athel sponsored online FTP on blockchain technologies and its application from 3rd November to 7th November 2020. Okay, I extend my hearty welcome to our distinguished persons, okay, Lakshmi H. Shastri, the Principal Architect, Rio Technologies, Bangalore, okay, and Dr. Rajeshwari Banakar, Professor, Department of ECE, KLE Tech, Hubballi. I also extend a warm welcome to our beloved HOD and Dean of Malnad College of Engineering, Hassan, okay, Dr. Uma B, and all the participants for this online FTP, and I would like to welcome my colleagues who have helped me a lot to organize this particular event. So our sincere thanks to AICT Athel for giving us this great opportunity for conducting this online FTP on blockchain technologies and its applications. And I would like to thank our beloved principal, Dr. C.V. Venkatesh sir, okay, and MTS members and other and members of our college who have sponsored, who have supported us in planning and conducting this online FTP. So now I'll call upon our chief guest, Lakshmi H. Shastri, okay, we can proudly tell that she is an alumni of our college, okay, so to address all, okay, Lakshmi madam.
Thank you, Anand. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Now am I audible? Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank each and every one of you for being part of this great learning session. I believe learning is very key for everybody in this to remain competitive in the industry or in their profession. And I am a great learner. MC Hassan has been my foundation to primarily invigorate that learning and being curious all the time to learn something new and keep up to the challenges, right? So challenges keep coming, but learning is what gives us the right direction to handle those challenges in the right way. So thanks a lot once again, Anand and Uma, for extending this invitation to me. It has been a really a humble honor for me to be part of this college program and give back something what I have learned over a period of time in my professional experience. If it is help others, I would be very extremely happy in doing that. So coming to this topic, blockchain technologies and applications, right? So everybody is moving towards a digital business, digital transformation, and that is becoming the norm. And we have seen that relevance of digital transformation in this pandemic era as well, right? How important it is to be digital and how important it is to have everything connected when life has to move on in a normal fashion. The digital technologies helps us to move it in the right direction. And when we are in this digital business, there are a lot of parties who are exchanging information, who are exchanging data. So it becomes sometimes very challenging what to trust, what is more authentic, how do we know this is trustworthy information or this is just a spam. So that is where these new emerging technologies are making their way and proving how important it is to have maintaining data security, maintaining data integrity, as well as having a complete record of what is happening over when it is going through multiple parties, right? So that is where having these emerging technologies like blockchain, AI, ML, IoT, all of those are coming together in a comprehensive way to make this whole ecosystem very simplified and also have complete visibility and transparency into the data and processing the way it is. So it also has the transparency to the whole environment. For example, when we are saying we are talking about say COVID cases, how do we know this many number of cases is happening and this many number of people are recovering? And these are the symptoms across the world that is happening. So these are multiple ways where we can primarily help to share this information with a lot of transparency and trust. At the same time, it also empowers a lot of users to become part of this. For example, we saw there is a lot of decrease in the number of COVID warriors or the doctors, nurses who could attend to these patients as well, right? So when there are people who can come up and help to build this ecosystem of healthcare providers so that they can take up the routine jobs while others can do the specific jobs. So how do we ensure their credentials is verified so that we are trusting this to a person who has enough of responsibility and accountability? So in multiple different ways, this blockchain technology help us to bring that transparency, at the same time do these transactions a lot more faster and lot more efficient way, at the same time maintaining the cost as well, right? Also we see when information is required to be shared across multiple parties, take it a supply chain where these PPE kits and the beds, whatever procurement was done, how do we ensure it is reaching the last mile in the given timeline? Again, blockchain can help us to see where there is a blocker, how that needs to be addressed, how we can take immediate action. So all this can be built into the smart contracts of blockchain, which will automatically execute and keep notifying various different action happens and the whole cycle completes in a faster mechanism. At the same time, we also see how important it is to maintain the temperature of these medicines, or it might be agricultural products, or it might be authenticity of even the crops that are reaching from farmer to the plate, right? So everywhere, wherever there is a requirement for data transparency and integrity and a secure way of handling those information, blockchain does play a very important role, providing everybody that required level of trust. So how is that possible? Is it so possible to have secure players everywhere? How do we avoid frauds? How do we avoid somebody counterfeiting these transactions? So that is how blockchain becomes different, right? Because it is more of a decentralized way of storing data. So it is giving you the end-to-end transaction records, which can never be reversed or deleted from the whole storage. So that's how this blockchain technology is driving the digital transformation, and also helping primarily the industries to adopt more and more open APIs, which help us to connect multiple different systems, at the same time bring lot of different systems to transact or interoperate with each other by exchanging this data. Certainly, I see this whole session conducted by as this online program is going to help everyone in taking you towards that new journey and giving you a lot of visibility into this blockchain technology, and how this blockchain can be applied in multiple different industry use cases. So that I will talk in the next session. But thanks a lot once again, and enjoy this whole session. Make use of this information. Don't get overwhelmed. It's certainly an interesting journey, and all the great speakers are here to enable you with this new technology. Thank you very much, and Anand, back to you.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi Madam, for a very informative short talk. Okay. So now I would like to welcome our another Chief Guest of Honor, Dr. Rajeshwari Bankar Madam, Professor, Department of ECE, okay, KLE Tech Hubballi, okay, to address. Okay.
Yes. Good morning, all of you. At the outset, I'm very delighted to be associated with the Faculty Development Program conducted by MCE Hassan and sponsored by Atal Government of India. As a good friend, I'm closely associated with Dr. Uma Hassan, Dr. Anand Babu Hassan, who has taken a close look at the scheduling of the sessions in a very organized manner. This FDP plays an important role in disseminating knowledge on the state of our technology, namely blockchain. Although the knowledge came to light in 2008 with the Bitcoin platform, it saw the daylight from 2013 and 2015 onwards. Blockchain is not Bitcoin, clearly. Okay, this we should register in our minds very clearly. So it is the need of the day that blockchain design community should increase in the number. Academia plays an important role in developing the base manpower in blockchain. I'm sure our esteemed first speaker, Ma'am Lakshmi Shastri, totally agrees on this point. The FDP has tech sessions which commences with the knowledgeable session on blockchain basics, which will set the context for this FDP. Ma'am is from Virilio Technologies, Bangalore. We will be enlightened by the basic technologies used in a blockchain platform. Day one has two more sessions, one by me. I will be throwing light, I will be taking from Ma'am and throwing light on the platforms in detail, that is the Ethereum platform. Okay, then the main focus of the talk is preparing our enthusiastic participants in mind, keeping our enthusiastic participants in mind who have registered for this FDP. Basics will be covered in the first half of the talk, and the EVM platform will be covered in the second half. In the afternoon session on day one, Professor Manjula Pawar will be taking us to the deployment of Ethereum platform blockchain application using the whole DApp blockchain framework. Okay, so this would a good takeaway point from this session would be how all of you, dear participants, can explore to develop your own blockchain application on Ethereum. Day 2 starts with a framework of what are smart contracts by Dr. Yogesh, Professor and Head, Department of MCA, MSRIT, Bangalore. Sir, I believe this is scheduled on day 2, first session. Your session will quench the thirst of the intellectual gathering who can strengthen the understanding of the trust property of the blockchain. Second session on day 2 is from Mr. Raghavendra KM, Mavenir Systems, Bangalore, who is an eminent person, industrialist, who will speak on consensus mechanism, which is the backbone of the blockchain technology, which explains how the data is consistently stored on the distributed ledger framework. Okay, in his next session, he'll be taking us through the whole framework, and also he will be enlightening the participants on how to use Solidity framework, and which will be continuation of the first day's afternoon session. Okay, then here the next one on the third day, of course it will be again me who will be speaking on 2 sessions on that day. One will be on the Hyperledger Sawtooth architecture, basically, which is from the Hyperledger Consortium, and the whole architecture will be dealt in this particular talk, and especially how we should implement the designs, what are the basic technologies in a platform that are required to implement the designs. The second session of mine will be covering basically the whole platform of the transaction, how it will go from the client side to the application, and whatever in the previous session they have told, the consensus mechanism, smart contracts, how each of them is taken as a basic requirement in this to implement the framework. Basically, I will be touching on one blockchain framework, that is a Hyperledger Sawtooth. In the third day afternoon session, we have Mr. Milton B. Lima, who is the technical lead at Aspect Technology Center, Bangalore, and who is also my PhD student, who will be taking a hands-on session on the Hyperledger Sawtooth. So participants who are more interested towards the currencyless platform can take a good feel of how the whole technology is implemented in this particular this one here. The next day here, I really like the flow of the organization, day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. See, after having known 2 platforms, day 4, Anand Baba and Dr. Uma, they have clearly mentioned that Dr. Manish Kumar will be speaking on understanding blockchain with cryptocurrency in his first session, and how the blockchain platform and how the transactions, how the hashing, all that particular things are important, and followed by a thoughtful application of blockchain in IoT by Dr. Shivamurthy G, Associate Professor and Head, VTU Regional Office, Bangalore. Sir, all the resource persons will be very happy to know what is the new technology and how we can gain knowledge from this particular FTP here. And that is a session in the afternoon. We have enthusiastic Mr. Mayur Patil, Project Manager, Client India Private Limited, Vadodara, Gujarat. He will be a tech-savvy person. He will be explaining or demonstrating a blockchain using Google spreadsheet, and he will give all what is taught in the previous days. He will give us a feel of what is the actual transaction that is happening, what are the addresses that are generated. So we can have a takeaway of what this technology is. The next day, that is the last session, we have Dr. Durairaj Vincent, Associate Professor, Department of Telecommunication, Vellore Institute of Technology, Vellore, who will be speaking on blockchain for e-agriculture. So those who to develop this application can please concentrate on the previous talk, like Dr. This Shivakumar sir, myself, and the applications, right, where we can insert this IoT platform. Okay, with that context in mind, if the intellectual participants will see this session, it'd be wonderful for them to go home and take projects, right, on their academia. It is important that the projects should increase in academia. This subject should come as the curriculum. Okay, such FDPs will help in the committees to decide what to put in the curriculum for undergraduate, and some of the colleges are already doing this as electives, but it should come to the mainframe when we can increase the number of people who are going to develop in this particular technology. As of today, we have very less people working in this area. So we have a few, see, it's in the infant stage, few companies who are working. If this has to spread out, it is the bonus responsibility of the academia that we take forward such initiatives and build a better India. Okay. Now, another very good, the whole 5 days will be stressed upon and very thoughtfully organized. The last but one session on stress management, which is the need of the day in this pandemic situation, because interact. So normally, if it would be an FDP, I always travel there, and I am there with the organizers there. I really love to be in the community of tech gathering, but today it was not possible for me. In fact, when I speak to Uma, I told this one, oh, my daughters are saying, Mama, you don't go today. That's the thing, because of this pandemic situation. But here, one thing, what as the team, organizing team, as the resource person, as the participants, we will continue interacting with each other. We will continue developing the whole platform further in some way or the other. And I pitch upon if there are any needs to have the syllabus that is framed, or to have the practicals that are set, or to have the applications that are developed, or to give small projects to the system and be a reviewer for that, that will be wonderful. So Dr. Nirupama Kiran will, counselor and physiotherapist, will be enlightening us on stress management. Ma'am, it's really nice of you organizing this particular session. With all technical, this is also required for us. Okay, we have the last session, one of the most important session, because as a resource person, I value this part very, very much. And I have improved from all the criticisms, right from my 34 years of service, 35 years of service. Every criticism I have taken it positively, or every improvement I have taken positively, and we have reached some level of, at least we can speak on some new technologies. Okay, Anand, I'm very happy to be associated with all of you, with all of the team there. Wonderful team, wonderful organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam, for your brief introduction, because you made us work very efficiently.
Yes.
How efficiently that you're going to do the work that we need to learn from you. Okay, so thank you very much for your most informative session. Okay, so finally, I would like to call our beloved HOD, okay, Dr. Uma Madam, okay, so to give the concluding remarks of this inaugural address. Uma Madam.
Okay, thank you, Anand Babu. A warm good morning and greetings to one and all. Very sorry that our principal had some other very important work and because of which he could not make it for this inaugural session. Nevertheless, we have his blessings and greetings to move further. Now, I am very happy, proud about the two chief guests that we have for today's session. One is my very dear Madam Professor Rajeshwari Bankar Madam. And I really have no words to express how good, how serious academician is she. And I only wish that her energy, her enthusiasm must be contagious to all of us during this 5 days journey. And you can see that at her age, 55 plus, so she has started picking up learning the blockchain technology and not just knowing the fundamentals, has she really implemented, has she done real coding? And you should know the coding is really pretty hard because the platform you would need 7-8 softwares to be installed and to work on top of it, and she has really done that and proved and set an example for all of us that that's the way to go ahead, even for an academician at a remote place like Hubballi. So thanks to you, madam, and she is the main architect of our workshop since the day one that we got the approval from the Atal Day here. So she's with us, she's like a backbone, and she's giving us all guidelines and unconditional love and care for all of us. So that way we are blessed and fortunate to have her in our FTP. I only wish that all the participants will make the best use of her knowledge, her expertise, and the communication day here and the connect that you will have. That would be a lifelong learning day here. And thank you, madam. And over to Lakshmi Shastri. She's a proud alumnus of her own college and she's a very sweet girl. I think even I must have taught her while she was here doing her MCA. So very happy to have Lakshmi. She, being from a corporate industry, she has got a very good rich experience of using blockchain technology in the real life scenarios. She is the right person to share her knowledge, expertise and experience about blockchain with all of us. So with these two guys and few more, all the other very great resource persons that we have for the event, we only hope, we wish that all of us will make the best use of all these sessions so that Bankar madam said, we will be shortly introducing this as a course for both for UG and PG, and hence we need the basic knowledge and the know-how as to how the blockchain technology can be taught, can be practiced as a research work to our youngsters. So with all this, they hear this is the need of the hour, and yes, that we'll have to start our journey and plunge into the world of blockchain and technology. And with these words, I will just draw a conclusion to the inaugural session. Now we will start with the regular session, for which I shall now invite my dear colleague, Ms. Nandita, to introduce the first session speaker, Lakshmi Shastri. Over to Nandita.
A very good morning to one and all. I am happy to introduce Srimati Lakshmi H. Shastri, an alumnus from our own college, Malnad College of Engineering. Srimati Lakshmi Shastri is an architect with hands-on experience in providing strategy and solutions for enterprises based on leading technology solutions. She is focused on emerging technology solution innovations, architecture and design thinking for customer value creation. She is a seasoned professional adept in driving digital transformation and building strong customer relationships. She has an experience in working with Fortune 500 clients on various large-scale cloud adoption engagements. She actively engages in coordinating with disparate business stakeholders in delivering solutions across industry verticals. She has an experience in working with stakeholders at all levels with attitude to deep dive, learn, and be curious in translating business problems into value propositions. Her areas of focus include consulting, assessment, migration to cloud platforms, blockchain, IoT, AI-based solutions for financial, healthcare, and retail industries, nurturing engineering quotient by being subject matter expert and collaboration. She has many white papers to her credit. Few of those include transforming mortgage securitization through blockchain, Internet of Things and smart labs of the future, empathy-driven solution blueprinting and design thinking. She is also involved in innovation labs like blockchain solutions targeting 5 different verticals, intelligent search in ingesting the real world data and genomics data with machine learning and deep insights, data lake building and digital glue through appification and mesh architecture solutions for financial systems of innovation, smart labs enabled internet of lab things with ML and applied AI for protein crystallization. She is also a speaker in various tech forums. To name a few, AWS India Developer Day, 10th Annual Cloud Computing and Big Data Analytics Bangalore, Future of Cloud during August 2018, and Synchronize 2000 New York during April 2019. I welcome you, madam. Over to you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nandita, and thanks Uma and Rajeshwari ma'am for your nice words. It's very inspiring. I'm extremely grateful to Uma and happy to know Mr. Rajeshwari ma'am as well. A very inspiring person to look forward.
Madam, you can start your presentation.
Okay. Shall I start?
It's all yours, madam.
Yeah. So before I just start giving a brief agenda on what is this whole next 1 hour I'm going to take you through, I'm trying to give you a highlight on how blockchain industry is evolving, what are the different industries which is adopting blockchain for its various use cases, as well as I'm also trying to primarily highlight how these different industry applications are being used and how blockchain is being leveraged in different use cases. I will walk you through primarily 1 or 2 detail so that you get to know how each different aspects of this applications are used in multiple industries. At the same time, if there is any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat window. I would be extremely happy to answer your queries or clarifications and help you with the information that is required. So first I will walk you through where exactly blockchain, or why are we talking so much about blockchain, right? So blockchain is a new emerging technology, as I mentioned in my earlier talk. So it is something that is becoming a primary foundational aspect for digital transformation and digital business, because everywhere data is becoming so important, and we keep hearing that data is the new oil. And data is primarily making sure it builds the right insight, it provides the right analysis, and it also ensures that data origin is trustworthy data. So that is where blockchain is gaining so much of importance, though it is still in a nascent stage because of multiple aspects, which I speak as I go further. But still, there is a lot of potential for this blockchain technology in the market. If you see the kind of business that is being projected by various different research analysts like Gartner, they are projecting by 2025 there would be a $39 billion business that would be happening using this or any blockchain technology. So who are the drivers in the industry who are adopting this blockchain, right? So whenever there is a new technology, sometimes because of the hype, some industries adopt, but this is not just the hype. I completely agree, Bitcoin started this whole concept of blockchain, but Bitcoin is just one aspect of blockchain. It's not all about blockchain. So as the Bitcoin was related to financial industry and the banking sector, financial services are the pioneers in adopting this blockchain technology, given that there are multiple parties who keep exchanging this data, and lot of this data needs to be very trustworthy, authenticated, verified, and validated by multiple sources who contribute to these multiple financial transactions, based on which the whole business is dependent upon. So that's where financial industries are pioneers in adopting this blockchain technologies. At the same time, next comes this insurance, where again multiple parties are involved while creating any new insurance claims. So to verify whether there is a actual claim that is happening, and the data all that is being provided, because there are multiple set of document information that is primarily passed upon, whether that all belongs to authentic data, or whether there is any fraud or forfeiting that is happening as part of these settlements and clearing that is happening. Apart from this, we also see a lot of supply chain industry, because supply chain, there are multiple parties, right, from manufacturers, distributors, logistic providers, and the end retail shops, where end-to-end multiple parties are exchanging hand. And there is a lot of possibilities of fraud here. Many times what you have packaged and sent as a to the distributor, it might not be the valid items that would reach. So if there are, say, 1,000 items that were sent by the manufacturer, what reaches the distributor might not be 1,000 items, and the quality of those items as well might not be the right quality, because somewhere in between. Because we had a very interesting Johnson and Johnson coming to us and talking about how their product is exactly duplicated as is, right from everything. So when they even leave the UV rays to check the validity of that product, that only can detect it, because the other whole aspect of this product is duplicated and forfeited, but it is not actually Johnson and Johnson brand product. So like this, every business is also undergoing lot of loss because of recalls, because of fraudulent product delivery, customer not being happy, and at the same time their business revenues being impacted. Healthcare is another, as we see in COVID, I think healthcare has gained a lot of importance, where the immunization, whether everybody has taken those vaccines, or what kind of medication has helped. So various different patient records, if they were available at right in time when people were admitted due to COVID complications, that would have helped them with lot better insights on what medications would have worked better and what would have been the right kind of dosage, or what medicines they are allergic. If all those patient records or the health records were available on time to these doctors who are treating on COVID, so that would have saved a lot more lives, is what everybody would have realized by now who are impacted by COVID. Right. So there again, having this sensitive information of health record being exchanged to multiple different health providers without it being tampered becomes very critical and crucial in the industry. Coming back to the other experimenters who are adopting blockchain, our energy and utilities market, where we see a lot of sectors in energy where people are not utilizing the provided units of energy which they want to give back. For example, here, if we compare that in India, it is more like solar energy, right? Wherever it is being generated, they might want to link back with the BESCOM or the energy electricity provider, who can give them discounts in various different aspects. So that is where a lot of energy and utilities are doing this auto grid kind of applications, which help users or consumers to give back to the grid, which also gives them a lot of incentives in multiple different ways and helps them to reduce their bill charges as well. This becomes very critical in large factories, manufacturing plants, where this helps them to take these additional units and leverage them at better pricing. So this way, the whole ecosystem gets the cost optimization distributed across each and every player. Coming to manufacturing and we see a lot of predictive maintenance would have helped the downtime of some of the machines that would, if at all they were notified much earlier, or there was a way to notify that this machine is not functioning properly, or there is some glitch that is happening in one of the lines which is affecting the productivity or the primarily the number of items that is being manufactured, or what is primarily covered by the whole line. So that is where this again impacts and this whole process of blockchain and a non-tampered way of holding these transactions gives this visibility on to how old is this machine, how many times this has undergone servicing, what were the problems, whether this was a replacement, something else done by a vendor service. So all that visibility provides the right way to approach that problem much earlier and prevent that breakdowns happening and ensuring that continuity of that manufacturing line. So other areas we also see who are slowly picking up into these blockchain technology are public administration, because a lot of records management, I think that is very crucial with a lot of sensitive information, where public administration is also looking into blockchain opportunities. And there are multiple different systems who have to do handshake, while some of the process has to be going through this workflows of approval. So there would be a legal department, there would be a HR department, there would be a sales department. So all these different departments have their own systems which are generating this data in different formats, and blockchain can help to standardize that information as well as help to exchange that information between these multiple players, bringing that interoperability also as part of their internal systems. So that's where blockchain is not just for external parties, it is also for internal departments to exchange data more efficiently and effectively, and also have that auditing capability as well, right? So that is where blockchain has the potential to grow. We also look into what are the driving forces which is primarily making this blockchain adoption much more relevant in the current market. But it is not a silver bullet for every problem that we are having. There are a lot of adoption challenges, and as rightly mentioned by ma'am earlier, so it is in the nascent stage, experimentation stage, where multiple different options are being tried out. So as we know, while Bitcoin was a cryptocurrency that was released long time back, and a lot of people have done their investment and also have undergone some losses, some profits, and now a lot many other cryptocurrencies also in the play. But Facebook itself is now coming up with a new Bitcoin type of cryptocurrency called Libra, right? So when industries like Facebook is primarily making sure that there is cryptocurrency which it can make a niche in the market and leverage lot of business revenue by rolling out their own currency, that means there is something really good enough in the technology which is little trustworthy. At the same time, it has challenges which is primarily being managed. So as we go further, when we see what are the different type of blockchain types, we'll get to know what is the difference. But what is driving this blockchain market is primarily a increasing demand for the distributed ledger technology, given that it is tamper proof, it is immutable, and it is distributed. There is no centralized authority. So for example, when we say centralized authority, for example, banks, right? They are centralized authority. If tomorrow something is claimed by the bank, so a lot of bank customers are at stake. But when it is distributed, the whole control is not centralized to a single authority. There are multiple people who have to take that consensus before they need to take a decision, and lot more is transparent, which gives the ability for everybody to see what is the best way to move forward. And when there are multiple parties involved, certainly there is lot of transactions that are happening, and because of the manual process, when multiple parties waiting for action to happen one after the other in sequential fashion, but blockchain helps you to do in parallel, helps you to multiple simultaneous people work together towards a common goal. That's where the transactions happen much faster and much more efficiently. At the same time, it also gives the whole ecosystem of users the visibility into what is happening in each different steps, right? So every transaction, because it is immutable, it is stored, people know, every user know in the whole network what is done by each different users and whether we should go ahead with this authentic transaction or whether we should reject this. So there will be a consensus which will help them to have that transparency as well. Multiple different players like Microsoft, Amazon, and IBM, Google, they all have released their blockchain as a service applications, which are primarily looking into integrating lot of enterprise legacy system, because these legacy systems are existing from quite some time. It is very difficult to change them to become more innovative applications. So that's where building a layer over and above these legacy systems and having the standardization and interoperability make sure that there are a lot more innovative applications that can be developed right in time. For example, a banking application which does provide student loan, when that same student becomes an entrepreneur or wants to start his own business, because he is completely new to this whole business concept, so he can be rightly guided on what kind of loan he needs to avail, what kind of investors he needs to approach, what kind of various different uh, uh, white areas he has to fill in, because that is where he needs the guidance, right? So the right guidance for the right set of customer is what is made possible by having this interoperability and visibility into end-to-end cycle. Because he has been a customer with the bank from long time, he can avail a lot more facilities as well, and the loyalty programs can become much more well received by these end users. So that's where this blockchain as a service, a lot of large players are investing into this, making blockchain much more easy to adopt and also much more faster to primarily implement. That's what you will see in the next few is how different blockchain services will help you to do different kind of blockchain networks, and how it helps in the whole process of smart contracting and bringing that transparency. At the same time, the total cost of ownership, given that these are distributed networks and requires a lot of scalability, so that's where having this blockchain as a service on cloud platform certainly gives number of users and the network requirements for mining or doing transactions or storing data increases, it can elastically scale and leverage the cloud scale or the web scale of the cloud to primarily have a lot of users be part of that network. If all these are the positives of a blockchain, then what is holding back by the industry for its adoption, right? So regulatory uncertainty. So we never know when the government can declare that these blockchain related trust or blockchain related enabled transparency, or example, the cryptocurrency, they might say anytime it is invalid. Then all that investment that has been done related to that blockchain cryptocurrency would drain out. So of late, I think MasterCard and Visa, they have taken back their support, given that regulatory uncertainty in some of the European countries, given that open banking was something that was broadly proposed in the European market. There are a lot of different smaller countries, and when people move from one smaller country to another country, because they don't have their credit history, this open banking used to enable them to leverage their credit history from different country to new country in opening new bank accounts or taking some loans and to start their business. So all these different open banking concepts, so that were primarily supported in a European country, but at the same time, the GDPR kind of sharing sensitive data on these blockchain networks, that is certainly ruled out, given that these are immutable network where the data can never be deleted. So having that sensitive information on the network is not possible, but through open APIs, they can only be interchanged and a pointer can be maintained in these blockchain nodes. So that's where a lot of laws, regulations, and compliance requirements are holding back adoption of blockchain in a larger market. and lack of trust among users. So that's very contradicting, right? So when we say this builds the trust, it gives end-to-end visibility. At the same time, we are saying there is a lack of trust. So when what is lacking in this distributed network is everybody has to come into consensus. So when if it is a public blockchain, there are lot many players, and making sure that every player has that consensus to the authenticity of this whole transaction. So bringing in to that common ground and common rules is where we see a lot of challenges, and having a consortium would always help to avoid who makes this governance, who makes these rules, so who has to adhere, what are the standards. So those kind of governance standards is being part of this consortium, where this lack of trust is being ironed out very well, right? And ability to bring network together. So that is one more challenge. Within the enterprise, you have a different network. Outside the enterprise, if you want to have multiple third parties interact and communicate, you have a blockchain network. So integrating these two networks together, again, becoming much more challenging if depending upon the blockchain network type, right? So if it is a public blockchain, then there are a lot of public players where they connecting to your network imposes lot of security loopholes, and also ensures so uh, lot more impact on the storage, lot more impact on the compute, lot more impact on the data volume that grows. So it brings in its own set of challenges as well, and integrating that external network and internal network, and making sure that each different user types has different type of access controls and role based information access. So that itself is a new area of challenge that needs to be addressed by enterprises. So if these are private blockchain, which is certainly driven by the organization for their internal departments, that is lot more under governance, lot more under rules, and lot more secure because it is accessed within the enterprise environment. That's where we are seeing lot of sandbox environments where people and enterprise are playing together to make sure that this technology is getting adopted, if not in the public blockchain forums, at least as a private network, permissioned network. So separate blockchains not working together. So each different blockchain, as you see going further in the next coming week, you see different type of blockchains, and all these blockchains are still not seamlessly working together in a fashion to exchange the data, and also it's not very easy to make them handshake between each other. So this is slowly being addressed by different players who are bringing the standardization, who are adhering to this open source forum, for example, Ethereum, what you are going to see in the coming up days. So all those are still adopting these ways of working together with other blockchain networks, which will also help in adoption of this blockchain in a extensive manner. So ability to scale. So we do not know if it is a public blockchain, what is the number of users that needs to be supported, what is the kind of infrastructure that needs to be in place, what is the kind of security that needs to be applied, and what is the type of compute and storage that would be required. So some of the on-premise blockchain setups will always have this inability to scale, and these are addressed by cloud hosted platforms. But still it becomes, when it comes to faster transactions, the kind of investment that needs to be done requires a lot of investment as well. So intellectual property concerns, because everybody is having their business data, their sensitive data, their customer related data or revenue information. So how this can be exchanged in this kind of distributed network where there is lot more security, still there is always people or the last chain which can be little loose, which sets that concern with respect to the intellectual property. So what can go into blockchain and what cannot go into blockchain is also another area where everybody has to decide whether is blockchain good for everything. Is it a storage of data? No, it is certainly not a data storage. It is only a transaction store. It should not store the data given that the volume itself as is lot more, given that every transaction is stored and nothing is deleted from this whole repository. So blockchain should never store data. It should store only the transaction that has happened on the related data, and the data always can reside on the enterprise storage systems that has already been hosting that information. Again comes to that audit compliance concerns because of all this sensitive information, exchanging multiple parties, exchange between different sources, exchange from multiple business aspects. So whether it gets misused, whether it gets taken in the wrong way. So that is where again this audit compliance is still not a regulatory primarily there is no regulation which says the blockchain is a good enough auditing, serving good enough auditing purposes, right? So that is where the adoption has become little more challenging, though it is not primarily holding back adoption. At least it is not taken on its full potential growth given these adoption challenges. Moving forward, right? So when I was mentioning why blockchain is so important, so as I covered all this points stating there are multiple parties who share information and who update the information, and we should enable these multiple parties to do these updation or sharing of information in a parallel fashion. At the same time, there should be a way to authenticate and validate this information. So there is requirement for verification from multiple parties. Why? Because, for example, if there is a sale deed that is primarily given as part of the mortgage, we should go back to registrar office and check whether that sale deed is a valid sale deed, how long it has been purchased, what is the current value, what is the previous value. So various different verification from parties who are enterprise gamut, right? So that is where it becomes very important to get multiple parties into this verification process. And lot of intermediaries, and this adds to the cost and complexity, as I mentioned, because again, validation and verification from different parties who are involved in this data generation, data sharing, and data validation and verification process. So that's where it becomes easy when it is blockchain, so that we have that complete transaction store in our storage. And time sensitive interactions across parties. For example, if the underwriter in the insurance domain has to do the verification of whether, for example, when a person is asking for a mortgage loan, whether there is this is a previous customer, whether he has a good credit history, whether he has always paid on time, whether he is employed, whether he is below this age factor, and based on whatever the previous transactions he has requested for this mortgage loan, that will enable them to take action in reducing the time it used to take for multiple different parties to do it in serial fashion, one after the other. Now they can start doing and observers can help them to take immediate action whenever there is a response that is received. So various different interactions can happen, and it can adhere to much more optimal time than taking long duration to complete that whole end-to-end cycle. By building this whole data transparency, data trustworthiness, data integrity, so we can cover a lot more use cases, for example, in the future, where it can get integrated with AI, artificial intelligence, or lot of machine learning algorithms can run on this data to see, for example, if we are talking about manufacturing industry, we can always see which particular machine or which vendor from whom we have procured this machine has always given a better service. So we can always place more orders, and we also know who is providing this on time, or from which location. If we order this, the tax might become lesser. So all these various aspects, it can be built in, given that this is a source of valid data that based on which we can tie up a lot more use cases. So if you see here, what are the primary use cases that is covered by blockchain? Blockchain technology is used across digital banking, where a lot of banking and finance industry are leveraging this either for e-commerce or for global payments or for remittance or point-to-point lending. Because this is allowing them to have multiple parties transact immediately, give that transparency and visibility to multiple parties, also not have any intermediaries who has to validate and verify, because this whole network itself is enabled to make those transactions happen, and the smart contracts can take the right business processing and the right action when certain events happen in this whole process. So that's where digital banking is one of the pioneers in adopting blockchain in multiple different applications. At the same time, digital identity, which is, it might be, for example, your passport information, or it might be your health record information, or it might be your any sensitive information which is primarily allowed with you, or only you can allow it to be shared across different players in the market. For example, in digital banking, if we are looking at open banking solutions where there are third-party people like multiple mobile apps who does allow us to have integration with multiple different banks in the back end, and also gives us a complete view between our banking, between our insurance, and between our financial services, the kind of loans we have taken. So it gives us a end-to-end financial visibility and financial health, which leverages this digital identity to the large extent. Record keeping, as I was mentioning earlier, the health records, I think that is very critical, and the clinical trial records, where lot of patients and lot of different CROs who are clinical research assistants and lot more different type of players are playing their role, because these drug trials are a long run drug trials. They have to go through multiple different phases, and the first trial would be generally to see whether it is having any serious consequences or side effects. The second sequence might be on a long-term usage in different geography, in different gender, in different kind of health issues, how this medication is affecting or impacting. So that is where there are a lot of different areas where record keeping helps, and it gives us that immediate access to those information with whichever parties, trusted parties, we want to share this information. So title record, as a lot of mortgages happens based on collaterals. So that's where verifying and validating these collaterals become very important when it comes to the title record validation and verification. So that also helps us to have complete visibility into the information that parties to whom this whole property has primarily have this record of this property ownership. So that's where it gives a lot more information on the ownership and accountability and the transfer part of the title records. Voting and intellectual property, I think there are a lot of music albums who are primarily enabling this through blockchain technology, which ensures only the authentic and paid users get access to their music albums. So that's where it sets a key, important aspect of authenticity, and primarily having your intellectual property safeguarded, right? So record keeping aspects, so that's where blockchain has become very crucial and important with respect to this aspect. Coming to the smart contracts part, so various different legal records or various different digital rights, what I explained in the record keeping, and wages, trustees, For example, I think charity is one such place where it helps us to give complete visibility into the amount that has been provided to as a good Samaritan. So where does this amount and money get utilized? Whether it completely reaches the victims or whether it is uh, uh, primarily used by the middlemen. So how does that visibility primarily gives you a good satisfaction of the charity work that is being done, primarily reaching the right people who need to receive that, and you also feel that sense of satisfaction that okay, the time money I have shared has reached the right people, or the help I wanted to provide has been well utilized, right? So that kind of visibility as well is provided by this blockchain technology and smart contracts. So that is one of the key areas where we see even UNICEF and lot more other organizations, NGO organizations are adopting this blockchain technology for charity related applications. Coming to the second, the debts or the equity or the private market, I think this was one of the key aspects why it made blockchain very crucial. For example, in US, there was some time back a subprime, it is called as subprime crisis, where the subprime crisis led to lot of housing loan that is being procured and not being paid off because of not having the right kind of records with the right organizations. So that's where a lot of these global government agencies, they see having these digital securities in the form of blockchain applications help them to have the high risk net worthy individuals, what is that it is causing in the market, whether the financial health, some of loan keeping, the information related to their debt history with being well maintained. So all that visibility comes into in the financial industries market in multiple different aspects, right? So that's where blockchain is extensively well applicable technology to multiple different industries and to different use cases as well. So what is that attributes of blockchain which is making it so relevant to these many applications, right? So again, as we see, it is decentralized because data is not stored within the network, stored in single storage place, so there is no failure of a single region. Given that there are a lot more earthquakes, lot more weather impacts we are seeing around the globe that is happening, having that in a centralized place is more making it a failure, single point of failure. So having it decentralized makes it much more to multiple different locations and multiple different parties, so that single point of failure at least is minimized. Next, it is transaction between multiple different parties where there is peer-to-peer transaction that is happening. It is not happening to a central authority. So that is where it is not governed by one authority of how these transactions has to happen. It is between different multiple parties. So that is where having that proof of authority or proof of consensus, as we see there are multiple different blockchain algorithms as well that helps us to leverage in different type of blockchain networks. Based on that, that brings that central authority concept to a distributed authority concept. And because it is having this private key, public key based cryptography, and those algorithms can be of a different complexity level based on the different business requirements level, it is highly secure, and those hash algorithms are very difficult to primarily hack, and that's what makes it much more reliable as well. Transactions, every transaction is record, it cannot be deleted, and it can only be accepted, verified, and stored. So that is where it becomes irreversible. So once the transaction is happened, it is available forever for your visibility, so you know what has happened in the history, and based on that you can take the right actions related to these transactions. In these transactions, because it is happening in the network and it is verified in the real time, so though it is not in real time, it is near real time is where this processing happens. So it reduces the timeline that is required for the end-to-end transactions to complete. So that is where it becomes much more faster and easy to primarily identify if there is any bottlenecks or if there is any blockers which can be resolved immediately as well. Coming to the trust and consensus, because each contributor in the network is having the same kind of decision making capability. So that is where it doesn't depend on any one person or one authority or one organization who has to take this consensus. So that's where trust value increases in this whole process. Visibility, given that type of blockchain network, so it also depends on what kind of access levels you have. For example, sometimes you can be just an observer who cannot take any action, but you can still have the ability to view what is happening and keep informing the other parties to take the next actions. But that will processes are timelines, it's service level agreements, and it is also happening based on the required workflow process that it needs to proceed with. So that is where there are different kind of visibility levels, and at the same time, if based on the access level permissions, you can add review from the origination of that data. So that data origin becomes the sanctity of the data origin gets well maintained. It can be everywhere. It can be your computer. It can be any node of the computer can become a node of your network. There is no centralized copy of data. So because the data is broadcasted across the network, though it is, as I mentioned earlier, not a good practice to have that complete data stored in the network. It is always better to have those pointers stored and reference back and decrypt those transactions. As I move forward, I will talk about how it can be primarily leveraged in different use cases. So these are the benefits of blockchain-based platform, which we saw earlier. It brings in the simplification, it brings in the data integrity, and it also brings trusted data with the transparency that is required. At the same time, it also, because the whole process happens faster, it brings down the transaction cost and empowers every user of the platform. Just a quick view on how exactly this blockchain building blocks are. Though I will not go in detail, I will try to cover the applications of this, because there are other sessions which are taking you through the deep dive of blockchain technology. At the high level, just to set that context on how exactly these applications are leveraging blockchain technology to its use. So there is this which used to be centralized earlier, are moving towards decentralized, and this decentralized nature of blockchain is what is making it much more useful, because that's what is increasing the trustworthy nature. And it also can become public blockchains or private blockchains, depending upon different types. There are permission blockchains, there are semi-permission blockchains. So enterprises decide based on what type of blockchain network they want to adopt. So that's where this is ensuring there is different type of blockchain building blocks which we have to leverage in the platform, which will help us to primarily leverage this technology as per our requirement. Right. So what are the few building blocks, the foundational elements of a blockchain? It is a shared ledger, because this shared ledger is updated. It is more like a journal, right? So the journal gets updated every time there is a transaction happening, and it also syncs across the network. and bring everything into a consistent and coordinated fashion. It makes everything into a consistent stores across the network, right? So there are different types of rules depending upon different type of industry that I might want to write in my smart contracts. So these contracts are nothing but set of rules that gets executed when certain type of events happen. These can be primarily programmed into our blockchain platforms. So that's how the smart contract gets executed and triggers a new set of activity. There are different type of nodes as well in blockchain, mining nodes and transaction nodes. So these are different areas where the information is primarily being exchanged in the network. And all the nodes also has to agree upon the transactions with a different type of algorithm. So these different type of consensus algorithm is also I'll touch upon going forward. At a high level, this is how the block looks like. It comprises of different units in the blockchain, but primarily it is also having the type of transaction count, the time at which this transaction has happened, and different type of hashes that primarily ensures the data that is stored is not so easily visible without having to do a lot of algorithm based approach, right? So this is how the data storage happens in the blockchain, because the data is linked together into and replicated as well. So failure of any one node doesn't mean the failure of a whole system, because the data is distributed. It is accessible all the time to the users. So that is where that single point of failure is avoided, and it also ensures each block is having enough cryptographic hash, which will ensure it is tamper proof as well, right? So because the data is never related, there is a large data volume requirement for storage, and the processing time also gets impacted because it has to process through lot of data volume. And as we see going forward, there would be different type of blockchain networks that can be created, which all depending upon the regulatory and compliance needs, these different blockchain networks can be created and the right applications can be leveraged. So as I was referring earlier, there are different type of consensus algorithms. So those algorithms, just to highlight few of them, some of them are called they are proof of work, proof of stake, proof of authority, and Byzantine agreement. So each algorithm has a different pros and cons and where that can be utilized. For example, decentralized control might be good in public blockchains, but that might not be so relevant in private blockchains. So there they should have chosen authorities providing those governance standards, best practices, or how the each network nodes has to perform. So that is where proof of authority would be primarily a algorithm that would be used in private blockchains, where proof of work would be used in public blockchains like Bitcoin. Low latency is always highly preferable in enterprises when these applications are integrating multiple different systems. And depending upon the choice of application, we can select what type of algorithm that we need to apply for different types of applications. So governance features, security, flexible trust. So all these are the parameters or the attributes based on which we need to select the algorithm based on the type of application we are choosing. As I mentioned earlier, there are different types of blockchain, private blockchain, type of activities that we need to perform. That's where these helps in forming these different type of blockchains. Public blockchains are primarily which doesn't require any permission, and every transaction is public, but here users can remain anonymous. But that might not work well in enterprise environments where it is private blockchain controlled by the organization, and they give role-based access on who can primarily do what actions in the network, and they also choose what should be the consensus process. Based on this, they can make sure this private blockchain is enabled across their network to a given set of users. So more sandbox environments are leveraging private blockchain type in the enterprises, so that it is happening between permissioned users rather than permissionless users. So semi-private is primarily run by multiple different type of on-premise cloud with the pre-established criteria on what can go onto cloud, what can remain on-premise, and some amount of permission that would be required. So these are more of business use cases within line of business, within departments of enterprise, who has different role level access, given that sales representatives, for example, they might have different access permissions, while sales manager might have different permissions, and global sales manager might have different permissions, right? So that is where this semi-private kind of blockchain helps. So consortium is where it is moving towards consensus, at the same time not dependent on a single set of stakeholders, but there are pre-selected group of people who can come together whenever there is some conflict, or whenever there is some resolution that needs to be taken up, or there is something which is not the normal process, but a different process has to be followed as an exception. Right? So that is where this different types of blockchain helps. And as we heard earlier from ma'am, so these are different type of word in the next phase, those different technologies that forms this blockchain. As I was mentioning, there are a lot of players who are providing these platforms, which is where the technology is evolving in a faster pace, where we are seeing a newer common data model that is being released as a standard, which helps to exchange this information between different type of networks, which helps us to have this integrated with lot more enterprise systems, which also helps us to primarily integrate with lot more external systems within the enterprise as well, right? So there is lot more players who are primarily offering these services, which can be well leveraged to our applications. Now coming to the use cases, I will deep dive into one or two, and as I mentioned earlier as well, some of the use cases that we have covered. But these use cases are all dependent on different players. I'll go through the banking and finance, which is primarily a key adopter in leveraging this blockchain technology. Right. So what is that market potential we are seeing? Why we are saying blockchain is so important in banking and finance, and what are those different areas where we are seeing the critical role of blockchain technology? They are in payments, smart contracts, document management, digital identity, exchange, and clearing and settlement is one of the very high place, given that there is a lot more parties that are involved, and a few other areas as well, where digital market or digital banking market is primarily thriving on leveraging blockchain technologies. So if we see what are the different reports who are highlighting on how blockchain help in the various different platforms. So blockchain is helping the mortgage industry, given that mortgage is a place where there is lot of information that is exchanged by multiple parties, and these financial services industries needs to have insight into the right validation of the documents from different parties. Blockchain makes the right way of leveraging this technology, because it can also streamline the mortgaging process, eliminate a lot of redundancies, and reduce the cost across different players. So that's how this technology innovation is helping the mortgage industry. It also helps to give a view of performance and how much loan is being paid regularly, whether that person is eligible for another loan if it is applied, or whether he prepays the loan. So based on that, his next loan sanctions can happen with much more loosened regulations. So that is where it can become very user centric. So that's the value it can provide to every different player in this whole cycle. It also gives you a saving because you are reducing the timeline that was required for multiple different parties to do the handshake. So what is the challenges that is generally faced by mortgage industry, right? So because there are a lot of information, for example, banking systems is having related information related to the account. There is employment information that is getting stored in the place where he is working and he or she is working, and there is a health record which shows how healthy he is to pay back these loans. So these are all siloed data, right? And these data, we do not know what is that trust, and also we do not know whether everything is. So that's where this becomes very, or it delays the mortgage processing when somebody is applying for a housing loan or mortgage based on different collaterals. Because there are multiple intermediaries and the whole process is complex. For example, the credit rating is given by different agencies. The title deeds are verified by different agencies. The legal authority is given by different agencies. So there are multiple different complex process who are causing this longer timelines. Hence, there is a lot of waiting time, there is a lot of cost, and there is a lot of friction as well, which is primarily making this whole mortgage processing take a longer duration than building up to the banking efficiency or the financial industry efficiency to have more of money exchanging between multiple parties. There are different data quality issues. The decisions might not happen without having the right insights. The decision might not be the optimal one. For example, if there is a debt clearance agency within the bank, they should clearly know, okay, how is this person's credit history and what is his account current outstanding amount. How is this being leveraged, right? So there are various different aspects to it. So, and also having this multiple parties also is required for verification, because there are a lot of fraud that keeps happening in this industry. As we see, the key actors in mortgage processing are lenders who provide this funding and underwriting the mortgage, borrowers who are potentially the home owners who wants to buy or sell house, and the current owners of the property who are primarily ready to sell their property, who also has to give a lot of legal documents based on which the lenders provide the loan amount to the borrowers. And there are a lot of regulatory bodies which are public at public level or district level or registry and auditors level, like land registry and regulatory bodies. There are credit bureaus who are having credit scoring, and agencies who provides or stores a lot of credit information related to the person. Here in India, it is CIBIL, which does take care of this credit history management. So whenever any loan or mortgage is requested, so that is where the credit history is released, based on which the person's eligibility for the demanded loan or the demanded number of years, duration for which the loan amount is being requested, all that gets validated. And GSEs are global security enterprises. For example, these are the ones who takes these loans from banking industries, and they are mortgage-backed securities. So they sell this to the second-hand investors who are high net worth individuals, though they are ready to take a lot of risk, but this helps them to give a lot more interest rate based on the risk values, right? Investors are the ones who buys these mortgage-backed securities and provide that interest amount, who also reap the benefit of gaining a lot more returns as part of taking that risk. So insurers are home insurance. So we see here the key factor is there are a lot more parties when we talk about a mortgage processing. So how this mortgage challenges are being rectified by blockchain is what we will see here. When as a first step, it is the loan requisition step where the borrower comes to the lender and he asks for a required amount of mortgage, and lender sends that information back to credit bureau to validate the credit history of the borrower. And once all those three information are in consensus, that's when they move to assessment and offering the loan. So the lenders and appraisers, if there are any, who will primarily talk about how much, what is the worth of the property. That's where the appraisers come into play to give the right value of the property. And owners, they quote their own values. Once the whole transaction done, there is a money transferring that happens between lenders and borrowers provide this amount to the owners. Ownership transfer happens from owners to borrowers, and the land registry body is updated with the new owner as the borrower. And there are a lot of insurance companies who primarily now take up the insurance of that property ownership. Once this loan is given away to borrower and the borrower provides that to owner and that transaction is closed, now bank has lot of people who have applied this for loan, right? That is where this global security agency, they buy from these banks, they buy from these lenders, they buy from these investors, and then they bundle this together. That is called as mortgage pooling. So this mortgage pooling happens, and they are sold to investors as a high value net worth loan, based on which investors does get the benefit out of it. At the same time, the borrower is paying back the amount to lenders, and lender is paying back the amount to GSEs. So that is where the whole smart contract rules apply. So whenever the borrower is paying that amount, it reaches the right GSE who is primarily taken this loan and provided it to investors. Where it is identifying lot of end-to-end life cycle, how it is bringing that optimization. So it is ensuring there is a digital identity which is verified, and there is a document uploads. For example, this title records. So through IPFS is what we are highlighting. That is another secure technology which is interplanetary file systems, which does store this document in the hash format. So it doesn't actually give you the document information embedded within that, but it gives you a hash handler, which primarily gives a link to the provided or the stored information. So that way, that exchange of information on the network also happen in much more secure fashion. And there is a real-time credit history check, which happens by the credit bureau, based on which the lender is primarily allowing that mortgage to be released. So like this, we see a lot of benefits that is happening through blockchain, which brings in that visibility into multiple party transactions. So it brings down that processing time from 45 days to 1 or 2 weeks, because there are multiple observers who can ensure that actions are taken immediately as soon as there is information provided by other parties. So that's where the cost and process friction is significantly reduced and happens much more faster. As it all happening transparently on blockchain, that is where there is very less option to any error or any fraudulent events to happen. Short payment cycles also ensure that a lot of amount or the capital that is tied up is released back to the economy, which can be well leveraged by these investors for other business transactions. So this is a user journey, given that how as a borrower, John would go and would like to buy a home. He goes to blockchain based platform. He enters his details, uploads all the necessary documents for a IPFS based system. And once the loan is done, the loan requisition process starts. For example, he has filled in the loan requisition form, and now once that submission happens, the lender takes this document and he primarily shares this with the credit bureau and appraisers based on the property of interest. Once these multiple parties keeps updating that the blockchain network, because it is a permissioned network, people can act based on the kind of access levels they are provided. Some people can edit only the credit related information but not the property related information. Appraisers can edit only the property related information, not the credit related information. Like that, a clear boundary can be segregated. So credit bureau updates the credit rating of John. So another block in the chain gets created, but credit rating is now available for everybody's visibility. And appraisers evaluate the property and update the value along with the current ownership details. So this also will be notified. And the bank now recommends lenders to send primarily John with competitive interest rates based on his credit history and the appraisers provided the property rate. Once that whole process is done by lender, now John is eligible for the loan amount, and he does get access to this loan. At the same time, all these loans are pooled together to primarily send it back to the investors. So this is how the next level of activities happen, and the blockchain is primarily ensuring the provenance of these loans in the mortgage-backed security is well tracked, right? So this is the value proposition of this blockchain solution. As I mentioned earlier, all the sensitive information related to, say, Aadhaar card information, or if it is in US market, information is not stored in the network, neither in the form of hash. So that's where it becomes GDPR compliant. And because of using IPFS, which is a decentralized storage using interplanetary file system for secure document sharing, it again ensures none of the data is visible in a plain text to parties. Having a common domain model also ensures that data exchange is happening in a standard way between the signatories, between the operators, borrowers, lender, credit agent, and title verification agencies. So that common data model, domain model, will help to bring the faster exchange of information in a standard language. Automated underwriting primarily happens because of all the smart contracts that has been enabled. And regulatory reporting happens, giving the end-to-end visibility to who is the borrower, to who is the lender, to what kind of money he is eligible for. So this is where that subprime crisis kind of situations can be averted much earlier, if at all that is happening through a lot of lobby that is happening in the mortgage. Using the cloud platform provides the given kind of hosting scale, the security guardrails, and the high availability of system. So that is the value add that is provided solution. Given that it is 11:30, should I stop here?
Lakshmi, it may be good for us to stop over here, because again, the next session also gets delayed here on the day one, when the inaugural session, probably we had some more extra time day here. So with this, probably if you can give a logical end to this, it will be good, Lakshmi. So you can take few more minutes, 2 to 3 minutes to conclude the session.
Sure. Thanks, Suma. Thank you. Yeah. So I'll give a quick overview, given that every use case follows through this same cycle, but it tries to solve different challenges that is there in different market. For example, here in pharma, as I was saying earlier, there is a lot of drug-related credibility issues that needs to be managed. So that's where blockchain helps us to ensure it is protecting that IP, protecting the counterfeit drugs in the whole with the visibility of the supply chain. So it brings in improved trial related to patient and doctor, GDPR compliance, multiple stakeholders, CROs, doctors, patients, all in a single platform, and the regulatory reporting and cloud scale availability. Moving on, just for a quick view on what are the different other use cases that are there. So this is about the smart procurement that can be done, giving that visibility of end to end, right from authentication to accelerated settlements to also ensuring there is a transaction security maintained as well. Again, this is the process flow related to the smart procurement. Coming to the supply chain track, right? So supply chain is again where it helps in bringing that end-to-end visibility into the chain on the temperature as well as on the booking, order, shipping, ownership. So lot many things wherever multiple parties are involved. So that's how it gives us that visibility. As I said, the loyalty management, how it happens in the banking, it happens in the retail sector as well. So we get to know who is the loyal customer, what other benefits can be provided to maintain his continuity to the brand. So all that kind of use cases can be leveraged through blockchain. Yeah, as I said, there is a lot more use cases in different industries, though I have touched upon at a high level. It is just bursting with a lot of applications that can be built around using this technology. So wish you all a great learning sessions in the coming few days. Enjoy learning this new technology and experimenting and seeing how this whole thing works with the end-to-end platform that is being leveraged for blockchain.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you so much for a very neat and a wonderful introduction into blockchain technology. We are highly thankful and indebted to you for your presentation and for taking off time from your busy schedule. Thank you. And I only request that probably our participants may approach you sometime later for any of their the help they hear. So probably then you please help them, extend a helping hand in whatever that they seek for. Okay?
Yeah,
Thank
certainly
you.
welcome.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you so much, Lakshmi. So probably we will now close this session. Madam, when can we start? Rajeshwari Madam, 10 minutes break, would that be enough? Okay, so we will start exactly now. My watch tells me that it's 11:40. We will start at 11:50 the next session. Is that fine, madam? Okay, fine. Thank you. So the next session link will be again sent to you, or we will remain the same the session itself, because it's a matter of 10 minutes they here instead of closing and again joining. So just keep your the logins open they here. We will continue the same session, the same session they have for the next talk. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.